name is Charlotte Fantastic, the lady killing romantic. That's my favorite line out of the show, y'all.
My name is Charlotte Fantastic.
Hey guys, I'm coming at you today to switch it up a little bit. I know I've been doing a lot of the Flash reviews because that's one of my favorite shows, but I watch a lot of TV, and of course, if you're not living under a rock, you watch Netflix and you see that they have a whole plethora of new Netflix original series. Now, The Get Down, which I am reviewing today, I'm doing a spoiler-free review, if I might add, because I have a lot of family and friends that have not seen The Get Down yet, and I really want them to watch it because I fell in love with the show right away, and I wanted to make this review for them and all of you guys who still haven't watched the show yet, to try to convince you that you need to watch this show and be prepared for part 2 that's coming up in 2017. We don't know when in 2017 yet. I'm thinking like maybe spring 2017, because that's when Stranger Things is coming back on. I don't know, but let's get into this The Get Down Part 1 review. So from reading the IMDb plot summary, it says The Get Down is a mythic saga of how New York at the brink of bankruptcy gave birth to hip-hop, punk, and disco, told through the lives and music of the South Bronx kids who changed the city and the world forever. So The Get Down comes from director Baz Luhrmann, who also directed some pretty popular movies such as Moulin Rouge, The Great Gatsby, and Romeo and Juliet. And he also had some collaborators on this project, which included Nas, Grandmaster Flash, and hip-hop historian Nelson George. Now, The Get Down, straight off the bat, it already had me because I'm a fan of hip-hop. Obviously, you know, I love hip-hop music, and I'm very much a history buff. I love seeing how things started, how things originated, how things came together. So learning that The Get Down was about how hip-hop started and switched from, you know, the disco era to, you know, the beginnings of hip-hop and DJing and MCing, I was already interested just from those facts alone. But upon actually watching the first episode of The Get Down, which is like a mini movie, it's like a little over 90 minutes long. So let's start with some things that I loved about the show. So right off the bat, I loved how Baz Luhrmann, who directed the first episode, I loved his stylized cinematography. You can see it a lot with his previous works, such as The Great Gatsby and Moulin Rouge, how it's real life, but it's kind of like a fantasy, like kind of like a mythical representation of the real life event, kind of like how IMDb described it in their plot summary. I will admit that I haven't seen his past movies. I might have seen Moulin Rouge a long time ago, some of it, and I've seen like clips of The Great Gatsby, but I'm not really super familiar with his work, so I didn't really research or, you know, do my homework about The Get Down before I actually started watching it. So I was expecting something totally different before I watched it. I also loved how they brought in the historical relevance of that time period, because you can't really talk about hip-hop without talking about what kind of created hip-hop, the environment that created this genre of music. So they showcased, you know, the political corruption, just corruption in general, the violence, the poverty, you know, people burning down buildings for money and all of that type of stuff. They talked about it and they showed it in the show, which I'm really glad they did, because they were showing the real life of that time period. And they didn't just brush over it, it was definitely woven within the whole storyline. Another thing that I loved about this series was the acting. You have some really great actors in this show. You have some new faces, or some fairly new faces, like Justice Smith, who played in the movie Paper Towns, Shameik Moore, who played in the movie Dope. You have Skyland Brooks, who played in the movie The Inevitable Defeat of Mr. and Pete. And you also have Jaden Smith too. And you also have some veteran actors mixed in the show, like Jimmy Smits, Giancarlo Esposito, and Ron Cephas Jones, which I had to look down at my notes because I'm trying to pronounce the names right. But overall, the acting was superb. I was very impressed. There was not one actor that I felt like didn't deliver. So kudos to the casting, because casting was very good. Another thing that I loved that was a part of the whole mythical, you know, fantasy-like quality of the show was that they mixed in kung fu elements, which kung fu and kung fu movies were very popular with black audiences, especially during that time period in the 1970s. So I thought that was very smart on their part. They kind of brought the two together, you know, hip hop and kung fu, you know, because the young black audience loved those type of movies. So of course they're going to be interested in that. And to bring those two together, it showed like a wider perspective and view of, you know, the black experience and what black people were interested in. So the Get Down shows the origin of hip hop and its beginnings and how it began from disco with the DJs mixing disco songs. So another cool thing that I really loved about the Get Down, which is another reason why you should watch it, is because major characters of the show represent the 5 elements of hip hop. So getting into that, I'll kind of explain. So I guess you would say the main character, Ezekiel Figaro, who is played by Justice Smith, he represents MCing. In the show, they call him the wordsmith, but eventually he'll become the MC or the rapper. Now, Shaolin Fantastic, who's played by Shameik Moore, he represents the DJ. He's the one that tries to mix the records, and in the beginnings of hip hop, he was the one that was kind of the star of the show because he was the one to get the party going. Jaden Smith, who plays the character Marcus or Dizzy Kipling, represents graffiti, you know, the graffiti art. Skyland Brooks, who plays the character Rara Kipling, represents knowledge. And TJ Brown Jr., another young actor in the show, who plays Boo Boo Kipling, represents b-boying, which personally I think, and I feel like you guys might feel too in watching the show, Shaolin Fantastic kind of represents DJing, knowledge, and b-boying, because you'll see that he does all 3. Like, he already is into the hip-hop culture because, you know, the hip-hop culture was an underground scene and disco was still high, but it was starting to die out. But Shaolin Fantastic, he was already in it, and he was the one that introduced the rest of the 4 guys into the hip-hop culture. And then Mylene Cruz, who is Zeke's love interest, who's played by, I want to say this right, Harrison F. Guardiola, who does amazing, by the way. Her voice is so beautiful, and she did a really good job with playing this role. But she represents the disco side because she wants to become a disco star. She wants to be like Donna Summer. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of some of the characters. There's a lot more great characters in the show that you'll love that represent the time period, that represent, you know, the different elements that came together to birth this new genre of music, which is recognized today as hip hop. I hope after watching this overview/review, you guys will check out The Get Down. It's a great show. Make sure that it's only 6 episodes on Netflix. Make sure that you watch the 6 episodes, even though the first one is kind of like a mini movie. It's a little long, but believe me, it's worth it. It's great acting, great visuals, great cinematography. The last 5 episodes average at about like 60 minutes per episode, which is kind of normal for a Netflix original series. Most of the series on Netflix are hour-long episodes, so you only have 6 to watch until part 2 of season 1 of The Get Down, which comes next year, 2017. So I'm giving you guys this review now. To all the people who haven't watched it yet, haven't caught up on the episodes, you have enough time to watch the 6 episodes of The Get Down, so you'll be ready for part 2 next year. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know if you want me to review more Netflix original series or other series that are coming on TV. I plan on doing Stranger Things in the future, as well as Marvel's Luke Cage. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know if you want me to do more reviews like this, more spoiler-free reviews, or do you want me to dive in more about the show, maybe talk about Easter eggs in the shows and talk more about like the characters and like have more of a discussion for people who already have watched the show, or do you want me to do more spoiler-free reviews? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more content from me, TV reviews, fashion, travel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.